So how often does being realistic just a more polite way of saying being scared? Think about it. Ever had a voice in your head which just told you that'll never work, you're gonna fail, you look like a total idiot? Raise your hands if you've ever had that voice in your head. Beautiful. Oh, damn, I don't have my clicker. Lovely. Yeah, that voice right there is Mr. Realistic. And his only job is to give you stupidophobia, the crippling fear of looking stupid. And he pretends that he's protecting us from failure, but what he's really protecting us from is possibility. He also loves promoting paralysis, the kind of paralysis that kills innovation, progress, and daring to think differently. My childhood was a constant wrestling match with Mr. Realistic. In third grade, when multiplication table showed up, my brain just checked out. I was like, hard pass, not for me. And while other kids memorized 7 times 8, I was mastering strategically timed fart noises. I'm fighting the urge to do it right now, too. But that time, I just realized that this is something that I'm not good at, academics. I suck at that. And my dad clearly wanted a classic success story for me. Good grades, college, a good job, no fart noises, and just life on easy mode. But my brain was a pinball machine of ideas that refused to play it safe. So and also at the same time, I saw my dad, who was struggling to put food on our family's plate, and I thought to myself, being realistic isn't clearly working out for him, is it? So the hustle began early. I set myself on a different path, and I used to buy inexpensive items from a local market and then sell them for a profit at school. And the moment that a guy handed me $1 for that cheap wristband, I lost it. I suddenly had business skills, and I could buy myself ice cream. And that $1 cone that I bought from my own money was my tiny emblem of success. Proof that I wasn't a total write-off, even though my report card screamed, "You suck." And there was a time where, in 11th grade, the pressure started really increasing. And my teachers were not a great fan of me. They didn't see a guy with entrepreneurial skills or a guy with undiagnosed ADHD. They saw a low-scoring troublemaker, and they made sure the message was clear. The realistic way to success involves good degrees and good grades, and you clearly suck at that. So I went and tried to kill myself. I was 17 when I swallowed 22 pills, and this was after a parents-teacher meeting, which was the final roof which made me do it. And I listened to Mr. Realistic's fatal logic. He was like, "Pranav, you're never going to be good enough. You'll always fail in your subjects. You'll never be good enough to study or be anywhere." And I listened to his logic. I was like, okay, this is a very logical thing to do, so I'll just end it all. And it was tough. It was really tough going through that at that time, but I'm not here to trauma dump. And it was just me being helpless, and I listened to it. My mom found me barely alive, and I was rushed to the hospital. I flatlined for 8 minutes. And in those 8 minutes, my life did flash in front of my eyes. But not the failures or the way that my teachers talked to me, but the good, happy parts about it, the hustle, the laughs, the feeling of buying my own ice cream. And some miracle happened, and I was revived. I woke up later in an ICU, 3 a.m., lying there. I thought to myself, if I was to live now, something had to die. And it's not going to be me again, obviously. I'm not that suicidal. It was going to be Mr. Realistic. And that night, I killed Mr. Realistic. Obviously, my problems didn't vanish suddenly. I still had to stick to a realistic path to fuel my unrealistic dreams. And I somehow scraped through 11th grade. But something fundamental had shifted inside me. In 12th grade, I innovated my ways of studying. YouTube, online courses, whatever it took to learn my way. And I scored 86% in my 12th standard, from nearly failing to honors. It was unreal for that kid who actually was just sucking at academics, right? And after that incident, I started questioning every single limit that Mr. Realistic had set on me. I, whenever he used to just tell me that this is never gonna work, I used to just say, well, sucks to be you. I'm anyways gonna make it work. And I gave myself a permission to be a little more delusional, a little more, focused on acting a little crazy and just doing whatever it took to just succeed. I realized that I had lived a story as a designated failure, which was narrated by fear, and I could barely get out of it. But I was too focused on killing Mr. Realistic again and again whenever he just tried to infiltrate my whole hustle. There was a time in, like when I was applying for my college applications, I almost played it safe. But my dad, whom I thought had disappointed the most, told me, why so basic? Why are you going for a business major? Just go for something innovative. The advocate for safety now pushing me to dream bigger, it was unreal for me. And I went into a design school. My brain, which was a curse in academics, became a superpower in design. Brainstorming wild ideas, coming up with unconventional solutions. It was my playground, and I thrived. By the third year of my school, this failure was a senior designer for a US-based startup, and I almost stopped my undergrad. And it was beautiful, just seeing that finally things were making sense. It became a pattern. When I used to focus on something seemingly wild, something unexpectedly good came out of it. And I decided I'll move to Canada. I'll get into a lead design school, into a program that is surrounded by innovation. And I made it. I left my US-based job, and here I am. There was a time where Mr. Realistic still tried to make a comeback. He was like, okay, Pranav, get any job. You're jobless for months. How are we supposed to eat food? But I was like, no, not gonna happen. And I still stick to my unrealistic mindset, and coffee and instant noodles were my diet for months. And somehow, after few months, I got a job right here in Canada, and it was beautiful. Amazing job. I'm happy with it. And yes, I realized that the whole battle wasn't just a personal one. It's a societal one. History is littered with giants that almost surrendered to that logical advice, and which led to their demise. Western Union, for that matter, they rejected Bell's telephone patent and told them that this is just an electrical toy and no one's using this impractical, ungainly device. Lol. But that confidence in their logical explanation about their current superiority of their technology blinded them to a revolution. And there are hundreds of case studies like this, like Nokia, Blockbuster, Kodak, and so on. And the common thing about all of them isn't that they were failures of intellect. They were failures of imagination, where innovation disguised as logic, sorry, my bad, where fear disguised as logic killed innovation. And I'm sure some of you might still be thinking, all right, but isn't caution good? What's wrong with playing it safe? The problem isn't with playing it safe. The problem is when playing it safe becomes your default setting. When let's be realistic is just a code word for being too afraid to even try. And this is not entirely our fault, just by the way. Our brains are wired for this. In ancient times, we had that alarm system, we still do, the amygdala, which used to scan for real or imaginary tigers. But now it freaks over a new business idea or asking for a promotion. And it floods us with anxiety. Then our prefrontal cortex comes in to validate that fear and tell us, okay, please not, let's not do this. And we end up just taking a seat back and not doing the task. I want you to, before I investigate that pattern with you, psychologists say that a potential loss feels twice as much as a potential gain feels good. And I want to investigate that pattern with you. I request you all to close your eyes for a moment. Everyone, close your eyes for a moment. And think about a dream that you truly, truly wanted to pursue. Truly. Like, okay, this is it. And think about going for it. Feel the pride, the elation, and then failing spectacularly. Okay, deep breath. Shake it off. Now keep your eyes closed and imagine going for that dream and it succeeding beyond your wildest hopes. The pride, the whole vibe of being successful. Okay, open your eyes. Which felt more real? For some of you, it might be the failure. Our brains are wired to feel that failure more vividly. And it's an expert in producing Oscar-worthy disaster films. But the twist is, we are its screenwriters, and we can choose to write a different scene. And there were certain ways I used to rewrite that script. Instead of goal setting, I started fear setting. Whenever I used to, get into a loop of, okay, this is bad, I used to just write them all down and figure out strategies to mitigate them or just reduce the damage. And this helped me shift my focus from the possibility of failure to the possibility for success. The next one was the what if it does reframe. Whenever Mr. Realistic tried to talk me into some sporadic outburst and just breakdowns constantly, I always used to just ask, like, what if it works? What if it does? And that's how I really stopped going into a negative spiral again and again and started questioning that, okay, there could be a potential for me to just get out of this situation and get what I want. And the third one was interrogating the logic. Whenever your mind, again, goes into that spiral, ask yourself 3 questions. What's the core assumption behind this logical argument? What's one underlying fear this logic is protecting? And the final one is, what's one small, low-risk experiment we can run to actually see if the logic holds true? And this helps you unmask that fear and get on with your life and actually be a little delusional. Okay. So this willingness to be unrealistic isn't a call for recklessness. I think, imagination really strives, and innovation also strives in a place where there's unknown and there's things that you really need to discover. And Mr. Realistic hates that place. He will always try to talk you out of that. He'll tell you, don't rock the boat. But if you never rock the boat, we'll never be able to build a new ship. I realize that realistic is just a story, and often a deeply flawed one. So don't let realism rob you of your power. Be a little delusionally crazy. Be a little delusional to believe into the future that you want to create. Because history shows that the people who actually changed the world were crazy enough to believe that they can. And let this be your cue to be bold. Whenever your mind is telling you be realistic, that's your cue. Be bold. Don't hold yourself back. And are we on the right slide? Yes. Okay. I want to leave you all with this one final quote that I resonate with a lot. It's from the movie Coach Carter, and it goes like, our deepest fears are not that we're inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we're powerful beyond measure. Thank you.